I am an American citizen working for the British government. I came all the way to Bangladesh to ensure that my brother gets justice for his wrongful and negligent killing. My brother, Mohannad Yousef Al Hindi, was a happy, positive, and presumed to be healthy 60 years old pilot. He was a very positive person. Everybody loved him and everybody loved being around him. He loved his family and he loved his job. He would get routine regular health checks for the purposes of his work as a pilot. He was a veteran.
Continue. পড়ে যাবে তাই জি কন্টিনিউ প্লিজ জি carry on.
He was a veteran pilot for Gulf Air who carried out his job with great care and skill to ensure the safety of his passengers and his colleagues. It breaks my heart to say that my brother was a victim of medical negligence and manslaughter here in Bangladesh, as he thought so highly of this country and the kindness of your people. The tragic and fatal incident took place on 14th December 2022. Here is the exact timeline of the day of the incident. He was staying at Meridian Hotel in Dhaka, where most pilots and airlines stay in Bangladesh, before his early morning Gulf Air flight, where he would be the main captain of the flight. He woke up at 2:45 a.m. to get ready for his flight and left for Hazrat Airport. He arrived at Hazrat Airport at around 3:30, and at that time the World Cup was happening and he was a big fan of Messi, and he was walking to the immigration talking to his co-pilot about Messi, and he was happy. While he was going through immigration around 4 a.m., he collapsed and was found to be unresponsive. At around 4:20 a.m. at the airport, my brother had his first cardiac arrest. At this point, the staff and people at the airport, he received 5 minutes of CPR. His blood pressure was going down. Therefore, after, he was transported to United Hospital. Between 4:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., he was still in transport carrying him to the hospital from the airport. He arrived at the emergency room of United Hospital around 5:30 a.m. and he did not receive any treatment at the emergency room of United Hospital. Between 4:30, at around 5:45 a.m., he was moved from the emergency room to the CCM unit of United Hospital, which I think is the ICU and in the hospital. Around 6:25 a.m., he had his second cardiac arrest, and again, CPR was given for 10 minutes. After carrying out return of spontaneous ROSC and ECG showed that segment's elevation. Around 6:45, he had his third cardiac arrest. So by now he had 3 cardiac arrests in the hospital.
Please carry on.
Sorry about that.
Carry on.
At around 6:45 a.m., he had his third cardiac arrest, and CPR was given for 15 minutes with ROSC. Around 7 a.m., immediate ECHO was carried out on my brother, and cardiology opinion was taken. Around 9 a.m., the cardiologist consultation was for the first time taken, and my brother, Frank, who was the first officer, the co-pilot with him, who did not leave his side, became privy of information that he will need PCI procedure, and it's necessary due to the critical state of my brother. He consented, as a second consent was required, but the Gulf Air personnel who was present there at that time knew that that procedure was very risky. Since the process was risky, the hospital was required to get Gulf Air's consent, which they failed to do so, and instead they called our family trying to get another consent from my brother, not giving him the full information, speaking with poor English that we did not really understand what he was saying, and undermining the massive risk that this procedure would produce. During the call, where they thought for consent for PCI surgery to check for heart blocks, they said it's normal, standard procedure, downplaying the risk involved, as my brother was on ventilator and suffered 3 cardiac arrests already. Around 10:30, my brother was transferred to the cath lab for PCI intervention. Upon CAG inspection, they claimed they found the left main artery was 99% blocked. Around 11:15, my brother had his 4th and final cardiac arrest during the procedure. He was given 45 minutes of CPR, and temporary pacemaker was inserted, and my brother took his final breath at 12:08 p.m. He was sedated during the procedure. Upon making an inquiry at the said hospital, United Hospital, I was informed that Dr. Kaisar Nasir did the procedure, but his name was not to be found in any of the patient file provided to Gulf Air and provided to my family. The report stated that my brother had asthma, when in fact he did not have asthma. When inquired about this, they said it was mistakenly left out. I also suspect that a cardiologist was consulted over the phone. There was no cardiologist at the emergency room, neither there was a cardiologist before 9 a.m. Only was never present in person to see my brother. My brother was buried 48 hours after his death, left here in Dhaka alone without any of us being around him to be with him for his last moments. I believe that between 4 a.m. and 12 noon, which is 8 hours, the hospital could have saved my brother, which they failed to. This is the report from the summary from the hospital. Now, what I think really happened. There's few issues here. Issue number 1, my brother, negligence of the ER staff and absence of cardiologist. When someone comes in an ambulance after being told that he had a heart attack or cardiologist, Within minutes, they should have prepared him for the CAD and for the intervention. Yet, my brother was moved from the emergency room to the CCM unit, to the ICU, and then for a CT scan and another few tests here and there, wasting time because there was no cardiologist. Issue 1, negligence of ER staff and absence of cardiologist. My brother suffers the first cardiac arrest at the airport 4:20 a.m. and arrived in the emergency room of United Hospital. According to their website, they have the best cardiologist in Bangladesh. Over an hour later, at 5:30, he had his second heart attack. ERs are known to be a special area in a hospital that is staffed and equipped for receiving and treating of any person requiring immediate medical care. If he is in the ER, why did you need to move him without doing any procedure in the ER? As the name suggests, emergency room, they function and their expertise are in the area of responding to emergencies. You go to an emergency room and then you go to an ICU, to anywhere else. Your emergency room is your start point. It was known to the ER that my brother had suffered a cardiac arrest already, well over an hour ago, and that he was in a critical state with his blood pressure dropping lower. It was necessary and reasonably expected that the staff at the ER would exercise their professional skills and knowledge and alert at least one cardiologist so that they could give this critical patient the medical care, immediate surgery if he needed. However, the staff at the ER failed to inform any cardiologist and lied to me personally. Oh no, there was someone at the, what's the name? No name. However, the staff failed to inform any cardiologist, and at that point was no heart specialist present at the ER. The ER staff did not take any steps to treat my brother. At this point, there was more than enough time for the hospital to provide my brother with the treatment or the CAD or anything to help him stay alive. That could have saved his life, but they failed to do so. Without any cardiologist's input on the matter, within 15 minutes at 5:45, my brother was transferred to the CCM unit by the ER staff. So he did not receive any treatment in the emergency room, and they moved him to another ICU unit. Thus, even though hour and 25 minutes passed by since my brother suffered his first cardiac arrest, the ER failed to 1. Take any proper medical measures to revive my brother, 2. Alert any cardiologist of his hospital to advise on the case, 3. Require his medical records from Gulf Air, which should have been by now sent to the hospital by Gulf Air station manager, and it was not. Now, issue 2, negligence of CCM staff and absence of cardiologist. My brother was shifted to the CCM unit at 5:45 a.m. One would expect that at the very least, one cardiologist would be available to oversee my brother's case since he was a heart patient at the hospital. However, there was not a single cardiologist present. And they lied to me. They said there was, but there wasn't. I suspect it may have been the case that since in other case, 40 minutes after being shifted between rooms to the specialized heart care requiring urgent and immediate specialist care, the negligent and incompetent medical staff who witnessed my brother suffer a second heart attack would have but failed to contact a heart specialist surgeon, then for the purpose of preparing for a stent or artery cleaning procedure. 20 minutes after his second heart attack, at 6:45, my brother suffered a third heart attack, a little over. But again, there was no steps taken, neither medically or ethically. The only step taken by them was giving my brother CPR for 15 minutes, for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Their duty at the hospital for the day. Days after my brother's death, they followed procedure as a staff, not by a cardiologist advice, because there was no cardiologist. A patient that they were not qualified to handle, and there are conscious and deliberate efforts being made to manipulate the records to pile up the hospital bill, since he's a pilot in Gulf Air. They only provided us with a medical test report. We received a report from the hospital with his grave, with his coffin when he came back. Not one page states a cardiologist's name or any doctor name except a gynecologist, a woman doctor, and then another ICU unit consultant. No names for cardiologists. No part of the medical test report provided to me contained the name of cardiologist on duty, and I now being refused access to the main patient file. When I first requested for it, they said it will be provided with it, and simply asked me to wait and come back later. 3 days I went to the hospital trying to get the report. And when someone is deceased, the report goes to archive. It does not go to a doctor. I was refused to get a copy of his report. When I first requested, they said it will be provided with it, and simply asked me to wait, come back later. When I became agitated and angry in the hospital and threatened to take legal action or involve member of the embassy, they agreed to provide it to me initially, but later they claimed that my niece signed for his release of body, and I am no one. And I am no one to be accessing any of his report. I could not gain access to it. That meant no logic for me. At no point did they ask me to present ID, except at the end, and then they said, you cannot get any report, after making me come to the hospital 3 days with promises of CCTV and reports. It cannot be confidential hospital property as he's deceased, and it is we have the right to have those reports. The third issue is the incompetent and incompetent consultation by cardiologists. Firstly, at around 7 a.m., it is alleged by the hospital that an echo was done and that cardiology opinions were taken. It's unclear whether the cardiologist was present or wasn't, how he gave his opinion, and what his exact diagnosis was. This alleged cardiologist, whose identity was not disclosed to us, neither in anywhere in the report, opted for the conservative management treatment for the time being, as stated at the report, when it's clear to another cardiac arrest 2 times. This performing the PCI was risky as opposed to immediately after the first cardiac arrest. Who did not introduce himself except as a consultant. He did not say he was a cardiologist, but a chief counsel contacted a cardiologist. During the call from the staff seeking permission for surgery, they said it's normal, standard procedure, and since he had a big heart attack, he needed a PCI. When my brother sorry. Reports at the United Hospital, they kept delaying me and they kept promising, come back, and clearly now they are altering the reports and the CCTV to show because there was no cardiologist. And we have our investigation and we have evidence. And I actually told them, please be very truthful with us because we did not come here without investigation. We've already investigated. After a threat of legal action or getting embassies involved, they provided me with the same paper, another medical test report that was prepared, but we've already had that. You give us a report, a summary report that has 10 pages of a heartbeat monitor, but not a cardiologist report, not a name of a cardiologist, and you say it's confidential? How can be a cardiologist report named confidential? We've contacted expert doctors and all these exams that was done to him, 80% of it was unnecessarily and delayed and did contribute to his death, and actually he could have been helped and revived at 7 o'clock in the emergency room. We know God chose him, but they should have done something.